Ain't nobody got time for that.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
No one has time for those things.
No one has time for this.
No one has time for those things.
You know what we need to do to get this going? We need to raise the minimum wage.
Ooh.
That's probably the problem. You're probably so cheap on
I know.
the payout.
I'm just paying minimum wage.
That we
paying
need
her
to get
at
more
all?
money going.
I was
That-
like, are you
see,
paying
if you
that
pay
tip?
more money, it's
I'm actually paying even way better than minimum wage.
It
I got
does-
slave labor going.
It does show that we're live.
We are live! Woo! One more time. Welcome to the Wine No Wine Show.
It is alive!
Have more wine. If it's not working right, just have more wine. You know, that's what I do. So we actually finally looks like we've got the show going live again. I don't know what the heck is going on, but you know, it is what it is. And you do what you can with it, right? So Erin was telling us all about her great charity. She's going to get to do that again, and then we're going to get into the darn show. So off we go. Erin,
Yes, so.
be brilliant. One more time.
Don't know what you heard, but the event, some of the other things that you can look forward to when you attend is we're going to have a relaxation station, which is going to be chair massages, and also some waxing done by Waxing the City. We are going to be having all kinds of crazy desserts. We have about 7 different dessert providers. Also food, cocktails, of course wine, so graciously donated by Joe. And we're also going to have some amazing raffle items for anyone that donates on top of the purchase of the tickets. So tickets are only $30, and like I said, a portion of that goes to benefit these ladies, and the more people that we can have come, eventually we'll get to the point where 100% of the ticket sales can go directly to these fans. .net, and it's on September 28th, hashtag Girls Night Out, Houston Strong.
Oh.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
It's doing it again, though.
It got nearly all of it that time, though.
This is just immensely frustrating.
It still looks good. We're rolling now.
Yeah, it does say we're rolling.
It's mostly
Roll with it.
okay.
Yes, we're just going with it. Apologize for the tech issues, guys. It's crazy madness, but what do you do? That's
It's Wi-Fi in Houston.
it's Wi-Fi in Houston. Yeah, that worked.
Everyone get off your phones on the freeway right now. Get off.
Yes, we have much more important things going on here.
Like wine.
That's right.
Go home and drink wine with us.
I will say that it was working perfectly just a matter of a few hours ago. So, what do you do? Yes, and Don, be sure to chime in. Don is commenting. Don, is it cutting in and out again? Let me know. I don't know what we can do about it at this point, but you know, hey, it is what it is. So today we are talking about the minimum wage. Erin, thank you for being on. Yes, thank you for being on.
Erin. Cheers.
Thank you for having me.
Yes,
Thank you.
you bet.
We'll see you on the 28th.
Yes.
And we'll post your information as well.
Yes. Thank
Absolutely.
Thank
You don't have my phone number though.
Yes.
Oh, 3 viewers. Thank all 3 of you guys.
We'll get there.
And now we want to welcome on our guest Tim, who has been beautifully holding the door, waiting for Erin to come on. Yes, I have a feeling I'm going to need a lot more of that.
Got a
so.
box of wine for somebody.
Box of wine, incoming, incoming. I'll just set that down here.
That's the upper crust in Louisiana.
That's right, that's right. So we're talking about the minimum wage today and whether we should raise it or not. Yes or no, what are your thoughts, viewers? Be sure to chime in, and we'll get as many of your comments included in the chain as possible here. And Tim's got a plant attacking his head. Ah! Sorry about that, Tim. I wasn't there before, but
Okay.
that's kind of good. We have all kind of crazy madness.
I think I was put here to fan you today.
Thank you.
Yes.
And they'll feed me
I
grapes.
appreciate it. Yeah.
They'll feed me grapes to fan you.
Well,
Yes.
some of that wine.
So, as we jump into this,
Look at you.
I just wanna keep
yeah,
drinking that.
y'all
Look at
shot
that.
through that, you bunch of
It's
luscious.
clear.
I'm
How do we
fine.
even know I
It's
drink
like
it?
water.
It's clear.
I'm too slow.
I didn't even know there was any in there.
Thank you.
We're going to jump into today's topic. You guys comment, yes or no, where are you at on this? Should we raise the minimum wage? Shouldn't we raise the minimum wage? How I always like to start the show, I go to our guest and I allow them a bullet point, kind of a minute or less, kind of where they're at and what their thoughts are, and then we're going to dive in from there to start getting feedback and responses. So, I'll start with Tim, who's getting eaten by this plant. And I'll just do this. There. It's my plant. I can break it.
It's just slightly bent. That's okay. Hopefully we don't get offend somebody by bending the
Right,
on the
right.
brand.
I hope we do.
Somebody's getting a letter.
It's PETPA. PETPA is going to be
All right,
calling
so,
me. People for the
you wanna
ethical
bullet
treatment of
point?
plants.
It makes no difference whether you raise it or not. It doesn't do any good. It does good temporarily for some people, but shortly thereafter, everybody's spent all that money and you got to raise it again. So you can just keep raising it.
Keep raising it.
Why stop at 15? Just make it $200 an hour minimum wage. It won't make a difference.
Let's just go.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Who you are? Oh, and by the way, Tim,
Tim.
introduce yourself. Shameless plug.
Tim Dillard. and
Shameless
I'm
plug.
Semi-retired and working real estate and do investments and all kinds of things.
I'm semi-retired too, but my mortgage company doesn't like it.
Neither does the company that you pay the rent to, the state government.
I keep explaining to them, look, I've got a very popular live feed show, and you guys just need to stop calling.
The check is in the mail.
That's right, you know. So, who you are?
I'm Lauren Garza, and I do a little bit of everything. Currently, right now, I am working for the Department of Commerce and just getting things done. Just doing what it takes.
The Department of Commerce. She's handling all your money.
It's secretive. Very
Yes.
secretive.
Yes. Monica.
The front for the CIA.
Yeah, she can tell us what that does, but then, you know.
And your minimum wage thoughts, so we can get to me next. What are your minimum?
Yes.
Oh, minimum
Yes.
wage thoughts. I think that they should be raised, but I also have other positions on as well. So.
All right. We'll learn about. She's a multi-position person.
She's the
I'm
minimum
just
wage
saying.
Karma
Are we allowed to
Sutra
drink
person.
this?
That's
Wow.
Yeah. Please don't let the feed get interrupted. We all want to hear that.
I'm toasting the multi-position
Yes.
person.
That's what I'm saying.
Multi-positions, yes.
Here's some
She's the
multi-positions.
minimum wage Karma Sutra goddess.
Here's the multi-positions.
You show.
What is this?
As I blush because my daughter is running the feed
New
I'm
show.
behind the
sorry,
scene here.
Ashley.
I'm sorry for Ashley too.
We're corrupting this bright young star. I mean, I'm telling
Yes. All right, Monica.
Monica
you. Yeah,
Branch,
feed the lush. Absolutely.
lifestyle expert.
Have some
and
more wine.
Lifestyle
That's
expert
our fourth
slash
glass.
lush. That's what I do. This is why minimum wage should be raised, because I need to afford wine.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that's
More
my
wine for
position.
Monica.
Right.
That's her position.
Raise it for wine.
Raise it for what? Raise your hands for
Raise
wine.
it for wine. David.
Well, for all of our two current viewers right now, I mean, because
I got 6.
this is when the shameless plug really maximizes its value, right?
You never know who they know, though.
Oh no, it just jumped to 7 just when I started talking. See that, Joe?
Then you
I
started
need
talking,
to get paid more.
You went down
Double
to
my
6.
salary right now. Oh yeah, it did go down. I lost 1. All right, so
Come on, David. Be relevant. They're dropping. They're dropping.
So
We're losing viewers.
So first of all, my name is David Pipkin. I have a show that we're doing right after this show. That'll be at 7 o'clock at Casa Nueva Mexican Restaurant, which is right there on 1960 in Kirkendall. So come out and join us. We're almost live music, dancing, Tex-Mex food, and we go from being wine connoisseurs to margarita connoisseurs. So it's really an awesome jump in taste, right? It's really good. We step down. We step down just a little bit.
Lower the
So if we
standards.
come out here each Friday, we can get wine and then margaritas.
You can go to the high side and then come visit me on the low side.
I've
You
been
got
set
friends in low places. That's right. Also, I want to throw out a shameless plug. I work for a custom builder, Scott Thomas Homes. So, you know, we have this real estate connection going on here. Joe is a great networking partner and all that. So I'm in a community out there in Stone Creek Ranch, which is Hockley, Texas. And we also do custom build on your lot. We also have a lot going on over in Town Lake. So wanted to mention that to you as well. And as far as the minimum wage, I take Tim's point to some level, but overall, I'm vehemently against it. That's hard to say when you've had your 3rd glass of wine.
I tried to say it earlier and I couldn't do it at all.
But I'm drastically opposed to it because all it does is basically there are short-term gains, but there are long-term losses that it affects. And overall, the harm that is done is far outweighs any good that is accomplished. And I'll bookend that by saying I'm borrowing that phrase from Steve. By the way, Steve, good to talk to you today. The overall effect too is we're not teaching our children that come out of high school the massively important skill of salary negotiation. If your job is to go out and find a minimum wage job, you have no concept of the value you bring to a company and why they hire you to begin with. So that's one of the main reasons why I'm against the minimum wage, because, I mean, period. I don't think there should be a minimum wage.
Why do you think they don't teach that in schools?
Well, we'll get into that.
Well, let's get into it.
That's a good
That's a
point.
good
But
question.
I
That is a
also
great
wanna-
question.
would
I think
also
I
like
just
to
got
ask-
into it.
I would also like to ask a question with people who do, they don't plan on having a minimum wage job, so they do go to college, and they get all this college debt, and then you go into the field that you went to college for, but you're already in debt by the time you get there. So even if you do.
Why do they do that?
Even if you do get a
And who's
degree,
doing it?
They are.
Who is they and why? Why do they not teach that in schools?
Why don't? Because the government doesn't want us to know that.
In the 1920s, the Ford Foundation, Henry Ford and others like that, took over the educational system in the United States and publicly stated, we don't want to teach people how to think. We want to teach them to do what we tell them to do.
That was a public statement from
That's
Ford?
a public statement.
What
I've
happened
never
to
heard
the
that before.
separation
Henry
of
Ford.
church and state right there?
Well, that
together.
didn't happen until 1954 when Lyndon Johnson decided to pass a law on the back of something that totally unrelated and put in there saying that pastors or preachers or whatever could not talk about politics in the pulpit. That was the first time there was any mention of
That's only
separation
the
of
reason
church
it
and
was
state.
separated, because pastors were
Yeah.
saying something.
The
and
reason it was
government
originally
said something.
separated in the Constitution was because they wanted to protect religious freedom from government interference.
That's absolutely
That's the
correct.
only reason
is.
that
And-
existed.
You get the
Well,
first
in
clink.
England.
Right?
Clink?
Oh,
Is
you
that
get the
yes,
first clink.
Yeah,
clinkable
that's-
moment.
yeah,
Yeah.
That's a wine, no wine show tradition, is
It
that
is.
when someone makes a good point, whether we agree with it or not, it is a fantastic,
Right.
we make sure to acknowledge the point.
Right.
Right.
So.
So we have a several points to jump in on. I want
Yes.
to chime in. Don online here. Don's a regular watcher of the show, and want to read his thing. He said minimum wage up, cost up, prices up. That person winds up making the exact same thing in the end. And the most common argument, it's not a living wage. That's correct. Not designed to be. Get skills and move up in the world. Instead of minimum wage hikes, focus more on affordable education and focus on technical schools. As a business owner, if you raise all of the pay, then I cut people, hours,
Exactly right.
hours,
Well,
or raise prices. And the real world data from Seattle shows that to be exactly true.
Actually, that's not exactly true. There's two different research studies that come out of Seattle. Just-
Okay, hold on, Doug.
Right.
Don.
No.
Don.
Cheers.
Cheers, Don. Yeah.
This is for
Fantastic
you.
point.
That's for you, Don.
Yeah.
Drink to be
Lamont happy,
West?
drink to be sad. But by means, drink.
Lamont West. Well, this show just went down the toilet. Yeah.
I like you already.
Wait.
Yes.
I have Lamont and I
So-
call each other all the time. We have one greeting. Can I just give it to him real quick?
Sure.
You ready, Lamont? Hey, Lamont, type it in. You know what it is.
So what you're saying is you're old.
Yeah, that's still funny after 12 years now.
Yes, yes. Yeah. Yes. It's a timeless thing. Yeah. So Don made a good point. Now, Tim, I know you were chomping a bit to chime in on that. You said that two different studies come out of Seattle. So what's your take on what Don is saying?
Well, there's two different studies that were done on, because Seattle was the front runner of the minimum wage increase, because they had a booming economy and they felt it would do less harm by increasing the wage there. That's why Seattle was the test market, so to speak. Cal Berkeley did a study and showed zero effect. Well, Cal Berkeley's study is tilted in that direction. University of Washington came in and said it was terrible, it's put people out of work, and it's raised all kinds of costs and that sort of thing. So who are you going to believe? Well, it's back to the thing that Will Rogers said back in the 1930s. There's liars, damn liars, and then there's statistics. Well, research is faked all the time, and so you don't really know. But what you know is simple economics, which is never taught in any school because it's the last thing they want them to learn.
Yeah.
And simple economics is if you raise the cost of doing business, it makes it harder to make a profit, so the business raises its prices. Meanwhile, the people that got the raise in the income level as a result of going from $7 to $13 to $15 an hour do better temporarily, but it's never enough because their costs are going to go up, and it eats that right away. My first paycheck, 40 hours, was based on the minimum wage. I got $20. Bucks goes much further now than 40 hours times $15.
But there's a big slice of the whole puzzle that what you just said isn't addressing, which is the effect that it immediately has on unemployment. Mm-hmm. And you can research history now again. And I want to preface this point. You know, we all have our knowledge base, we all have our statistics, and certainly those can be flawed. But that's what we try to do on the show, is bring things to the table, what we know, what we believe, pick it apart, and apply reason to it as well. But we've seen throughout history that when there is a minimum wage increase, there is an immediate effect on unemployment. There's always a little spike or a big spike in unemployment because it follows the line of reason. As a business owner, if I have 10 employees that are doing this job, getting paid this much, and you suddenly put a burden on the business owner, to Don's point, that you raise that cost of manufacturing those goods, automatically you're going to have a certain number of jobs that have to get cut. You start to look at who's essential, who isn't. I always love the things when you have storms like Harvey, only essential employees report to work, right? I don't care if they think I'm essential or not, I'm going to work.
I'm essential if
I'm
I showed
essential.
up. If I showed up, it's
You're not
essential.
required to show up when they say only essential
Yeah,
employees.
there's probably a lot of people wanting to buy
But
homes
even
during
when we,
that. Sure.
even when we talk
Oh yeah,
about,
that's different,
I
right?
need to build a house, and I don't care about the hurricane.
but even when we talk about minimum wage, like what class of people, like I know when we say minimum wage, we're automatically thinking fast food workers, but that's not the only place where minimum wage takes
That's
place.
right.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, one of our thoughts is like, no, I don't want to give a hamburger flipper more money, but guess what? There are more than hamburger flippers out there making less than that, and we should just take it step by step. And Torian, I like what Torian's saying.
Torian is
Joe.
always good.
Yeah.
Torian always has some great comments
Yeah.
to add in.
Say it, Joe.
Yes, so it's a good point to bring in Torian's comment. Torian said, all things involving money need to be heavily regulated. Minimum wage should increase with the cost of living. However, jobs intended for teens and young adults are not intended to raise a family. I'm strongly against food workers earning a wage of a union carpenter. And while we're at it, we need to get away from tip-based services in America. Ooh. How you work and your level of customer service should not be based on the amount of gratuity I provide at the end.
Oh, but it
Wow.
should.
So I'd like
So-
to
Yes,
jump
but
on that.
it should.
Hey,
That's what we do.
Definitely
Just put me in the
should.
queue. I want to
So-
jump
As
on.
someone who's
So-
been a bartender, why do
right,
you...
so I want to chime in, and so the floor is all yours. It's one piece of history that I happen to know.
Well,
TIPS was an acronym for a phrase
to
to ensure prompt service, and it was
Yes.
given at the beginning, not the end. And in essence, the whole walking in, hey, me and my buddies are here to take good care of us, and they tipped in advance.
Let's
So
bring that back, America.
yeah. So
do it. You will get
it
better
just-
service.
I
For
tell you
radio
what.
shows and
Right? Yeah.
For
Facebook
me,
Live.
what should be outlawed is the whole mandatory gratuity that's forced upon me, because in that scenario, I always tip less.
Yeah.
Because I always tip
Or the
more.
minimum.
I always tip more than the minimum. So as soon as it's forced, I'm like, I'm not going to add extra. You just go ahead and claim what you own.
Yeah,
So
you just determine what I'm
yeah,
going to give you.
exactly. So anyway, nothing to do with anything
As
right
a
there.
bartender,
Well,
put herself through college.
my wife
What
was
do
a
you have to say
bartender,
about it?
so.
Well, the point to Torian's
But
point.
keeping it dialed in with minimum wage.
Yeah. To
Yes.
Torian's point, the thing that I want to address about that is that there's two rights, Torian, that you're infringing upon by what you are advocating doing in that regard. Number one, you're infringing upon the right of the individual employee to negotiate his or her own salary, because you actually made the point that not everyone is looking for a wage upon which to sustain a family. So there's a freedom of choice there. As an employer, I don't necessarily have to. If I want to go cheap, I can go cheap. Now there may be a level that my service or my quality or something performance will drop off, right? So that begins to be something where the market will decide what those employers need to pay. If you need a skilled position, you better pay skilled money, and if you don't pay that, you won't get that person. The other side that you're limiting on that is you're limiting the right of employers to decide what they pay. You've got the federal government. This is not a role of federal government. You made a great point. Everything has gotten skewed. You, Tim,
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
you.
there's somebody behind me.
Gentlemen on the 7th row.
Clint, you
The
made
tall
the
green
best
guy
point.
behind you.
The
Yeah.
audience in there.
Yeah, except he's an environmentalist. I don't like that guy.
Gentlemen on the 7th. Hi, Mom.
Hey,
No.
Mon.
But it's the freedom of the employer to determine for themselves what they want to pay. The federal government has no constitutional right to dictate to employers what they pay. And this is why I'm going to bring this all around, because I constantly identify myself as a constitutionist. Because it doesn't matter what your ideology is. I'm so sick of people identifying their politics and their social policies by their ideology. If it doesn't fit into the Constitution, we give the big fat Texas boot. It's that simple. If it doesn't work in the Constitution, it gets kicked
It's a
out.
big boot.
It is a big boot. I'm a
big-
size 14.
Ginormous.
Yeah, that's right.
Ginormous boot.
So I'm just saying that to dictate to employers what you have to pay to a minimal skilled employee is a violation of the basic function of the role of government. It's not in there. It's a right that's being endowed upon government that doesn't belong. And we got to get back to constitutional government.
The government violates us all the time.
Well, but do we accept that as the norm?
Yes,
Or do we
have.
start to
Well,
fight
you're
back?
conditioned
We have.
to
We are
accept that as
conditioned.
I agree, but there comes a time
The
that
government
you
needs to help me. The government needs to take care of me. The
right,
government
but
needs
there
to
comes
solve
a
this
time that we
problem.
need to decide that we're not going to accept that as
That's
status
anathema
quo.
to Texans. You know,
No,
we're,
you
we're
should
not,
be.
We're not that way.
You should get paid what you're
Skill
able to. Your skill
What you're
is
worth.
what you're worth. And if you are worth $7.25, I'm sorry, you're worth $7.25. If you're gonna come in late, if you're gonna come in and with the I don't give a whatever attitude, then yes, you deserve this. But if you're there early every day, late there every night, I think it should be based on the ethic, your work ethic, and how you do and what you do, as within any job. And a minimum wage job is not just for. I mean, it's not to live on. It's not for a family.
I'm with you on that.
It's,
Good point.
It's for you
Thank
to
you.
start out and get better and do better. And people that say, you know, I've been through this and I've been through that. Well, guess what? I have too. And you have to work through it and get over it and stop wanting people to be like, oh, I need this and I need you to take care of me to do this. No, you need to do what you need to do to better yourself so you are able to do that. But I do think it should be raised a little bit with the cost of inflation and that type of thing, but not just all around everybody. Let's
you
just
get $7.25.
Yeah, like-
you get $8.95.
yeah, everybody.
Yeah, Lamont has
You
a comment.
know. Hey, Lamont.
Would you like to retort to Lamont? To your point, Lamont.
Well, we have a second generation of that, which is
Dawn. I'm loving Dawn, by the way.
Yes, Don's got some
Dawn
serious
and
comments
Torian.
going.
I love it.
Lamont's going to be on the show, by the way. We talked just over
oh
the
well,
weekend.
you've
yeah.
hit bottom now for
Oh,
sure.
Dawn.
We
Yeah.
thought it was with me, but you found a lower level.
Yeah. So I was back and forth between the two of you. So you know, Don says, want to raise wages? It's supply and demand. Get the economy going, and there are fewer unemployed workers to choose from, so you have to pay more to get them. When I owned the tractor dealership, we could never find CDL drivers. Had to pay 16 to 18 minimum to deliver tractors. After the oil crash, CDL drivers were coming out of the woodworks, and I could pay 14 an hour. So the bottom line is, get the economy booming,
That's
and
it.
pay
How do
goes
you do
up.
that? You lower taxes and business booms.
Wait,
It's real
this
simple.
hurricane, I think it's boosted business for a couple of regions.
We have a real estate business. Everybody that works for us is an independent contractor. We tell them when they come in, you have a choice. You can go get a job that gives you a little bit of security and allows you to get to the end of each month. And hopefully you make it to the end of each month.
Or you struggle like a
or you
realtor.
can go work your butt off and make as much as you want. And I've got 19 and 20-year-olds making 6 figures. And they work on their own.
All right, so Torian here, in response to what you said. Torian said the Constitution is designed to be amended. Are we arguing that Walmart should be able to pay their workers $3 an hour?
Absolutely not, but servers are also paid $2.15 an hour,
Wait,
but
why
they
not?
also do get tips. But no, I don't think that they should be paid $3 an hour.
Why?
Because I just don't think it. I
Why?
mean, it's not right.
Who's going to go work there?
Are there going to be anybody? Nobody. That's who's going to be working there.
So that's
Nobody's
the whole
going to be
So
working
Walmart's
there.
not going to pay that.
Yeah,
That's right.
That's exactly it. They
Right.
want people to work for them. They're going to have to pay
Mm-hmm.
the minimum that somebody will take. And just look me in the eyes. You know,
Southwest Airlines has historically paid all of their workers less money across the board than any other airline. And has a line of people out the door waiting to work there as opposed to going to work for every other airline. Why?
So, Torian, this is the question, right? Are we saying that Walmart should be able to pay these workers $3 an hour? Well, here's the question that's
I want to jump
posed to the group. Yeah, the question that's posed to the group is, what happens if? What if government got out of playing Big Brother in this position and quit intruding into...
They would lose money. That's what would happen.
Right?
They would lose
That won't
money.
happen.
That's
So-
why they have so much stake in it. Same thing with Big Pharma.
So
If
if they
got
stayed
of
out of
their
it
way-
and let business do their
Exactly.
thing,
Do you
right?
want to?
Yeah,
Do you want
yeah.
to?
So if business was allowed to do their thing, would Walmart be able to pay $3? That was the question that Tim was asking, right?
Right.
And he says that no, they wouldn't be able to because nobody would work there. They would go find jobs elsewhere. So the wage, correct me if I'm wrong, if this is your position, the wage.
I'm a Nazi, it doesn't matter.
The rate.
Where's his car?
The rate.
Here's my wage!
The wage would rise to meet the market, right? So, David, you have a point. You're chomping at the bit.
There's two things here, Torian, because, okay, so let's say, just for argument's sake, that Walmart came out and started offering their entry-level positions at $2 an hour, okay? Who's going to line up for those jobs? Now, the other side of that is that then you have these I don't want to label them by party. They're progressive, liberal, socialist, whatever you want to call them. They're wanting to do this whole open borders thing. So let's introduce another little topic into the mix here. You got illegal immigration and amnesty and all this. So are you talking about, Torian, are you talking about raising the minimum wage only for U.S. citizens? Or are you doing that for everybody? Because that's how you put landscaping out of business. That's why you can't go to a typical family-owned restaurant and get a good paying job to sustain your family, because the busboy is typically an illegal alien who is, they like to call them undocumented workers, right? So when you introduce this cheap labor into the workforce, who is being affected? You're affecting, you know who gets affected by raising the minimum wage? Number one, first and foremost above everybody else, are these low-income minorities.
Children.
You look at black
Yeah, I was gonna
unemployment.
say,
Black unemployment always leads every unemployment category among any category with black teens looking for entry-level jobs. You raise the minimum wage, who gets affected first? Remember the jobs I said get cut? It's always the minority, low-skilled workers. So,
The ones who need it the most.
you want to, it's funny, it's always that way. That
Then a
it's-
great statistic that follows that, crime. Because when
Exactly.
you have no gainful employment,
You have to go get
you
it
gotta
somewhere.
put food on the table.
Well, you
It's
don't
like-
have to. Let me
don't have to.
say
Time out,
this.
time out.
You already said it before. I want to say this because you said that before, and I was going crazy on my keyboard disagreeing with you because I will share this, and this is not prideful for me to admit. I'm not happy to admit this, but I have been through times in life that I was incredibly poor. I couldn't pay my gas bill, and I was setting fires underneath my water heater to be able to take a shower during the winter in the morning. I've been extremely poor in the past. Never at any point did I go knock over a 7-Eleven or something like that.
Well, you
are
should have looked
also-
into it. That's
No,
all I'm
no.
saying.
You
I'm
are
just
a
saying
white guy.
that
You're not a
that
minority.
doesn't matter. That absolutely doesn't matter. I was still poor. It comes down to moral teaching, moral fabric, and raising a society that is worthy of being a society that can govern itself. And that leads to a whole different topic I'll come back to later.
They won't
Go.
let us. They won't let us govern ourselves. And what I want to talk about is, like, let's say during the hurricane, there were things that people were called looting. Okay, there's a difference in a time
'em.
of trouble. No, hang on.
Shoot 'em.
In a time, yes.
Not
shoot
severe
'em.
enough.
Thank you. Looters are different than people who are trying to feed their family in a crisis. And if there is a store and there's milk and food that's going to go bad anyway, then you should be able to go in there, like taking a TV and taking other things. That's looting. Be shot.
Whoa.
But if you are going
Monica,
to a
that's-
store to feed your family and keep them alive, that's not looting.
But that's
And it's going to rot. We are in
when
a
you when it
disaster.
spoils.
FEMA has said we are a disaster area, and in a disaster, when people are up to their going to open again for another 3 weeks. My baby needs milk and water, and it's
Well,
right
but
there.
that's readily available.
Yeah, so
I've
that
worked
Foot
with-
Locker-
I've worked with-
No, it's
I've
not.
worked
It is
with-
not.
I've
No,
worked
it's
with
not. Not in
numerous
low-income
charities,
areas, guys. It's not.
But
It's
they
not.
but they weren't going to the stores to get milk and
That's
bread.
okay,
No, I'm
they're
saying-
looters.
They were going
Okay,
to the
but that's
stores
what
to
I'm-
get. They were going to the Foot Locker.
No,
Billion
listen,
dollar
no, those are
billion dollar
looters.
industry.
Those aren't the
Billion
people
dollar
I'm
company.
speaking of. I'm
Yeah.
speaking
Yeah.
of looters.
Yeah.
You're speaking of people who are running in and getting stuff. That's stealing. I'm not
Right.
talking about those people. I'm talking about the people who are accused of looting, but just trying to feed their family. That's a difference.
But how do you determine the difference
Well,
between
by
those
what
two?
they're taking.
So
if you've
they
got milk and
if
bread,
they break the windows of the store
Mhm.
and they go in and take milk, it's okay.
Yes.
Are you talking about just on
In a
on any
disaster.
Friday night?
In
or
a disaster.
In a disaster is different.
That's what I'm
there's
talking
different
about.
rules.
So
But
that's what I'm
somebody
saying.
still pays for that. If you go
And expire in the store because the
The windows
electricity's
weren't,
been out.
But, hey,
The
I
electricity's
saw a
been
guy
out.
who was starving who went fishing and caught. They threw him in jail.
In a
right,
disaster.
Well,
and,
you
and
can't-
I,
in a
I'm
disaster?
firmly with you on that.
Okay,
And you
so
can't even collect rainwater, so I mean,
Right.
Government. Who says you can't? The government.
Exactly.
I mean,
well,
you
but
know,
there's an overarching philosophy that's causing all of that to happen, and it's the thing that makes you believe there's such a thing as Republicans and Democrats, which they're not.
There's not.
The
No,
Bushes
there's
and the
not.
Clintons vacation together.
On that point, I do
Saying
agree.
They
If this
vacation
show,
together.
if this show
They-
says nothing else,
It's-
guess what? There, guess what? There
People
is.
that want to shut, I mean, you got people fighting right now the idea of lowering taxes. They're fighting it. And they're not, you know who's fighting it? Paul Ryan's fighting it. Mitch McConnell's fighting it. And they're fighting it harder than any quote unquote Democrat. They're trying to stop lowering taxes. You know why? Because they saw what happened in the 1980s and the American economy boomed into the 1990s. When Tom DeLay, who I know, and Newt Gingrich right after him became speakers of the House and balanced the budget, took the money away from being, the tax rate began to fall, we had a balanced budget, and the country just boomed. Okay, they don't want that to happen again. That's the real question, because that affects what you're talking about in minimum wages and things like that, because that's really, that comes from Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals, which were written in the 1960s.
I think it's a way to hold a certain group of people down, minimum wage, and if you don't want to raise
They
it,
want to hold everybody down.
they
Yes,
do
they do.
as
It's a
long
divide and
as
they want us
they're.
arguing against blacks and whites.
But I
That
think
is
that's
it.
your point.
That is,
Yeah,
and
it is.
it's the same bird, different wing. I mean, right wing, left wing, it's the same bird, it's the same evil. And as long as the rich stay rich, and I mean, you know, I'm sure there are people in here right now that are way richer than me, and but the thing is that you're still poorer than them, and they don't care as long as they still make their money,
That's right.
and they really don't care.
even
Like,
rich people have a struggle.
And
Nobody cares.
and
Yeah,
a lot of that
as-
though is a propagated view that's put into the media, because the real rich, I mean, do you know how much the Rothschild family is worth now? You ever heard of them?
Yeah,
I've heard of
yeah,
that.
I know.
I don't know why
I know,
they're
I know a little bit
It's
about them.
estimated, and notice that when they show the richest people on earth, they never mention them, or they don't
Rich
show the
people
Fords
don't
and that
allow
sort.
them, yeah.
Their money's all held in central banks all around the world. It's estimated not billions or trillions, but quadrillions.
Wow.
All right, that's the kind of wealth that the super wealthy really has.
And they take their money out, and they take their businesses out, and they ship it out to the Philippines so they can pay them $1 an hour, and they can do the computer work over the thing. I worked at a company that did that big same thing. We
Hello,
shipped
this
their
is Best
stuff
Buy.
out. Yeah.
Hello, my name is
What's
John.
wrong with your
I am
television
not-
today?
Oh, we get letters.
Yeah.
But the interesting
So-
thing about this is
It's-
that you came at the point from opposite sides and actually illustrated a truth. And I think that that's what a lot of these topics are that we end up talking about, is that it is the government keeping us focused on what can they give us so that we can be okay.
Well, the government,
it's partly
though,
about
the
money.
government is just a tool of very wealthy people and corporations. It's a corporatocracy. They said I forget which president, but it's in the 1880s, said we no longer have a government of, by, and for the people. This is 1880s. It is now a government of, by, and for corporations.
Yeah, agreed. But draw that. So this is what I've never understood. Okay, in my limited, I see things, but I can't connect all the dots. Right? How does it help these people? Let's say there are these few select that are running. They're calling all the shots. Right, through government as their vehicle. Right. How does it help them? Because if you raise the minimum wage, it's always the lowest class that aren't taxable anyway. I mean, even if they pay taxes, they get it all refunded. Let me finish. Let me finish the question. So they get it all refunded. So they're not paying taxes at the end of the game, right? It's only the top 45 or so percent that are paying anything at all. I mean, if you're making less than $30,000 or $35,000 a year, you're not paying taxes. They might collect it out of your check, but you're getting it back in a refund, right? So my question is, how does it help these powerful elite to operate through the government like that to keep these people down?
You're assuming that what they want is the same thing that you want: a happy family, wealth, peace.
So they don't.
They don't.
So what do they
So
want?
pause,
Okay.
Yes.
because
Joe's been chomping at the bit.
because we're past due on something.
Yes, sir. Yes,
It's
sir.
past 5:40. We are giving away on every show for at least the next 12 weeks. We're giving away this awesome T-shirt, right?
Back, show the
It's an
back.
I'm a Gray Pad T-shirt. On the back it says In Vino Veritas.
Amen, brother.
That's right. In wine is truth,
Here, you
which is the basic principle we operate on this show. That's Spanish. It's Norwegian.
Norwegian. Oh, yeah, that's what Norwegian.
Yes, we're giving away that T-shirt. We're giving away a premium bottle of wine.
Are you drinking wine out of the box over there?
No,
Sorry.
actually,
we
it's
are.
out of a bag.
Yeah, my friend commented. He said, "I see that, Joe." He saw me pouring it.
We did a magic trick.
Yes, I turned white wine into red wine. Not quite as good as Jesus, but you know, I'm working my way up to water. So anyway, we're giving away that prize, and we're also giving away a 30-minute free session of hot yoga with Planet Beach.
Hot.
So,
I love that.
Yeah.
106 degrees. Right?
oh no, they're crazy. It's like 120.
Oh, I've done
Seriously.
that. No, I
No,
love
it's
it.
They're
hot.
120.
It's hotter than Texas, and that's
That's
Yeah.
good stuff.
So we're giving away a
Where you
T-shirt.
from?
Yeah,
T-shirt's
gross.
$20. We're giving away a bottle of premium wine.
She knows.
The wine is $20 to $30 depending. So that's like $50 right there. And we're giving away a $39 HotWorks yoga session. So that's, I can't even do the math. Now that's like $90. There we go, $90 roughly, right?
It's more than minimum wage.
So you have to tune into the show. You have
blocking your
to
face, I'm sorry.
like
No, it's
the
fine.
page,
That's fine.
and you
No,
want to be
stop
sure
it.
to set that like to see first. Go in there when you follow the page, set it to see first. That way you see the show when it goes live. You want to click on the YouTube channel, follow or subscribe to the YouTube channel, and you want to like and share this show. All right, so every week I've been promoting that, and I've been watching who has done all those things. If you haven't done it yet, click on the send message button, type in the words contest details. It'll tell you all the steps you need to do, and you might be a winner next week.
Do
But
it now.
Do it now.
No, we'll pump you up.
Let's get to the chopper.
Don't be a girly man.
But on this
Too
week,
late.
the winner for this week is a lovely young lady who has chimed in on several shows, Dawn Abram.
Hey, Dawn. All right.
Dawn!
You're a great Ped.
I like
Yes.
Dawn. We've conversated.
Official.
Yes, she's a very sharp gal. I saw her. She tuned in earlier. So Dawn,
I'm HISD educated. Don't be talking.
I grew up pissed. PISD. Thank you,
There you go.
Pasadena.
Yes, right. That's exactly
so
right.
I don't know.
You got it right.
I don't know, Dawn, if you're still on the show. Say hello if you are in the comments, and hit me up in a chat. I'll message you if not, so that I can get your address. But we're going to be mailing you a T-shirt, so you'll need to let me know your size.
Say hello, my little friend.
David Ward, so
We
you
will-
have that extra.
We will mail you a bottle of
That
white
was,
or a
yeah.
bottle of red, depending on what you prefer. So you get your choice. A bottle
Wow,
of red, a bottle
they
of
get
premium
the
wines.
choice.
That's right.
Wow.
And we'll find out where the nearest Planet Beach is to you, and hook you up with a free 30-minute HotWorks yoga session. So, awesome. All right, couple quick comments.
By the way,
I like
found
Yvonne's
here the
comment.
Tori in here.
Yes.
She says there
That's
are
my girl
actually
from fifth
beverage
grade.
taxes.
Hi.
There are beverage taxes now.
There are
by the
beverage
way.
There are,
Okay,
yes,
yes.
there are.
Yeah, so read what Torian said.
Torian, yeah, scroll up for me a little bit there. Torian said it wouldn't be so bad if we didn't have cities and counties applying bag tax and sugar tax, sales tax, and beverage taxes. Honestly, I'm against big government, but we can't just shrink one half of the government.
Property taxes. How about that?
Property taxes in
Good night.
Texas
That's
through
a
the
hot button with
Or
me.
rent
Through the roof.
rent payment to the government.
yes, through the roof. That should be illegal. It should be illegal if you ask me.
Well, especially the tax on the appraised value, which isn't even realized yet.
Well, if you think that you own your property,
Yep.
You do not.
You are
try
wrong.
not paying the property taxes
Or the
and see what
HOA fees.
happens.
But
Or
there's
the
no
HOA
better
fees.
time to buy. Rates are low, so please call it over.
Yes.
Monica
Monica.
Branch and Terrell Real Estate, 832-230-7911. Don't let these guys scare you.
Yeah!
And she will bring you to the best
She
home
will
builder
bring
around.
you to Scott Thomas
Thomas
Homes.
Homes.
She will help you branch out to Scott Thomas Homes.
That's right, that's right. Don said, you'll never take a rich person's money. You can't legislate it. They have lawyers and shelters to hide it. Why even risk it? The only way to spend or invest it is for a good return. So you have to cut taxes and make it worthwhile to invest money.
Hello.
If the tax rate is too high, the risk is high, and the rich will just keep their money to themselves.
Boom.
No doubt.
you go.
No
Drop the
doubt.
mic, Don. Drop the
Terry
mic.
Brian Bending is calling you out on your quadrillion number. He said, "Lol, come on, lol." And then,
Who is this guy, Long?
lol, lol. He's referencing a Russian friend of his. Lol.
No, now Terry, I got to tell you, is a brother constitutionist.
Yes, sharp guy.
So
Very
Terry,
sharp
yeah,
guy.
very
Yes.
sharp guy. But check it out because Tim here does seem to be fairly well educated. You know,
He's
say.
Been there, done that.
I'm not saying I buy everything hook, line, and
Once
sinker.
once
but,
you've dealt with the CIA, the FBI, the IRS all in the same week, you learn something.
oh my goodness!
Why am I in the
that's-
same
I
that's
will
the
say,
experience.
Like, why am I in the same room with this guy? I just
I
We're not
will
worthy.
say,
No, they're just none of us are.
it's just one of those. It's just one of those think about it moments, right? They have the list of the top wealthy people in the world. Because I'm with you on this. We're on the same page. You can look for the Rothschilds. You won't find them.
You won't find the Carnegies.
You won't find the Carnegies.
Rockefellers.
Yeah.
That's funny. The
'Cause
people
they're-
with,
they're
the
hidden
people
in the
with,
You
fabric.
can find the
but
poor.
isn't that where the people
No, their
with
money's
things,
kept in central banks all around
but
the
the
world.
things
Central
that are
banks.
named
Offshore.
after people, they're the ones hiding their money.
And
How weird is that?
listen to this. If you want to conduct
don't
a
have
real
taxes.
fun little experiment, look at all the worlds who have adopted central banks, when they adopted central banks, and what wars coincided with those.
What did Joseph Stalin, the most murderous person that's ever lived other than Mao Zedong in China, what did he say about central banks? He said, put a central bank in a country, it's 90% communized.
Also,
But
All the money
that's still
flow.
what I don't understand is why I don't understand the link because the greatest prosperity.
Connect the link.
Yeah, let me finish that point because the greatest prosperity that we've ever seen, as you well know, it has been watching America through capitalism, right? When we lowered taxes, I mean, and the last time we truly saw this illustrated
The 80s
was
and
Ronald
90s.
Reagan, right?
Yeah.
With the whole Laffer curve,
Well,
right?
it hit during the 90s and Clinton took.
Well, right, and I agree with
Yeah.
you. I mean, look, we could go through a whole a different
It
topic
took a
about
while
how
for it to hit, obviously.
Clinton deserves no credit for the
Right.
economy. I'm sorry. People who think that he's the one who produced a surplus it's absolute. First of all, there wasn't a surplus. I can show you the numbers.
Yeah.
But to go beyond that, the point is there was such an incredible momentum of the Reagan years that's what spawned all this business growth.
Mm-hmm.
Nike and Apple and all these other companies that started in the garage almost, or in some cases did.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden this and the internet boom was
Mm-hmm.
all part of that. It's all natural growth of that. But yeah, when you start getting into the system of taxation, the greatest prosperity that we had was when the burden was lowered on the average citizen across the board.
Sure.
And now you get to this progressive structure, and you've got 20% of the people
Why don't
carrying
we have
80% of the
But you
burden.
go back. Why don't we just have a flat tax instead of the progressive tax? Well, the reason we have
Okay,
a
one
progressive
better.
tax.
Why can't we
John
do it?
Maynard Keynes was brought in by FDR in the 1930s from England. John Maynard Keynes traveled with little boys. He's a pedophile, well-known pedophile.
Oh, great.
Showed up at the White House with his little boys, given his private bedroom. Nobody cared, and he showed them how to put in a progressive tax with one thing in mind. That's the only way to keep people from progressing quickly through the system in
That's
capitalism.
horrifying.
It
Right.
undermined the whole idea of capitalism. There's other things that did as well. But that is why they chose a progressive tax rate, so that the more you make, the bigger percentage you take.
Right, which you're already
Yeah.
paying a larger amount even if the rate's the same.
Right.
Why don't we do something where it's a consumption sales tax, right? You can determine for yourself
Oh, I don't know.
how much you pay taxes
Well, the
based
whole-
on what
Like
you
it was
spend.
when we started the government.
well, not every
Right.
state has a sales tax on things. Like I
Right.
mean, like in Montana, they don't have sales tax on. Just
No, I'm not talking about
regular
the state
things.
level. I'm talking about the federal level.
Oh, the federal.
Do a
oh, they have
federal
it on
consumption
everything.
tax.
Yeah.
To Joe's point,
Eliminate the IRS. Eliminate
The feds,
the
Yes, eliminate
a government
lobbyists.
tax
the IRS
altogether.
is not there to collect.
Yeah,
tax.
time out.
They're a collection agency for the rich.
yeah,
That's
let
all
me
they
let me
are.
go back
Yeah,
some because
that's
this
what
ties back in, and you might be able to shed light on this too, because we had a discussion on the Civil War, right? Which wasn't a civil war, okay? But you go back to before the war between the states, there was no income tax.
Correct.
The overwhelming majority of the taxes were collected through a tariff system, and that was the big division between the northern states and the southern states, because the southern states were carrying 87% of the tax burden of the whole nation. And then the federal government was turning around because this was right around the time you named earlier, 1860s, 1850s. The federal government was turning around and giving subsidies to the localities in the northern areas as well as northern manufacturers. So basically you had the South being robbed to pay the North, right and left, through the government.
That's another show.
Different
We
topic.
call that another show.
But does it tie into
Yeah.
what you said earlier?
Oh yeah, absolutely. But there's a whole other thing that you can talk about with that. But I'm going to have to leave because I have another appointment I have to go to. I'd rather stay here because this is a lot more fun than I can even imagine. And
It gets more fun.
I just
than
want to
that
party
camera
with you
goes out,
guys.
yeah.
This is-
And
I
it's-
cannot
it's-
believe that.
it's more
I know
fun.
we got cut off in the front end, but I cannot believe that it's already 6 o'clock.
Did,
The time
is the
has
video
absolutely.
feed? Did you cut the feed?
No, we're still live.
No, we're still
See you
live.
guys.
Thank you for being on the
I
show,
just kissed
Tim.
y'all.
Say bye to Tim, everybody.
See you, babe. See you
All right,
later,
so-
Thank you, Tim.
All right, thank you.
Tim had to step out. You guys have to step up. Oh, look at that.
Oh, who did that? Who just marked themselves safe through the hurricane?
Glad you're safe, Ed.
Ed Camp.
We love it.
Ed Camp, thank you for being safe in the hurricane.
Ed, we're glad
Hey.
you're okay 3 weeks later.
Ed Camp was in an apartment that got flooded out. He actually had to be
awesome.
rescued.
Okay,
Awesome.
so
So-
thank you for marking yourself safe, man.
So he may be
so
back at the
glad.
house or something now. I don't
He's
know.
like,
You
I
know?
got Wi-Fi.
Yeah. Chime in, Ed. Let us
Hey,
know
look,
how
I
you
wanna-
are,
I want
man.
to see some
Hey,
more about
V.
Terry.
What's up, V?
All right,
That's
so
my girl.
Oh, okay.
My other girl. My wife's my girl.
Oh,
V's
yeah,
my
I'm
other
about to
girl.
say,
All right, so Torian said thanks. This is a great show.
Thank you, Torian.
He also said this should replace Bill Maher.
Yes, it should.
Yes, seeing as I can't stand Bill Maher, I love that comment.
Oh, even better.
So, you know,
Much better company.
you know, I like what he's trying to do, but my issue with Bill is
they can't do it like you.
no, right.
Well, he sets up human pinatas, and usually they're on one side of the ideology, and they don't really listen to each other.
I've seen
Yeah.
Here we do.
It's really
That's
really
back up to your
terrible.
comment.
I've seen it other way.
I don't
And-
think we hate your comments.
Yeah,
Go
some
back up to
Ashley
yours.
Orsak had a great comment earlier.
There's some amazing woman named Ashley Orsak who
Yes.
has something to say. What did she
Yes,
say?
my lovely daughter chimed in and she said, "Where does the line start and end, though?" Some people would argue that 725 just isn't right. It's just wrong. You can't believe you're paying somebody 725. Some people would argue that it's fine to pay for what the work is worth. At what point do we say that it's not okay? Some people may say that child labor in sweatshops is fine because of supply and demand.
Ooh.
So, you know, this,
I don't agree with
it's
that,
very-
but
no.
thank you for my iPhone.
Yes.
I do
You know what I
agree
mean.
with that, Ashley, because, and you know, going to school, whatnot. There's lots of companies that they just outsource their places to different poverty-stricken places. Like, I don't know. I'm not. Don't quote me for anything. I'm not for sure, you know. But like Venezuela, they'll like Nike or Kathy Griffin or whatnot. They will send their company and they will set up a company in a super poverty-stricken place where they're like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. I'm making like $1 a week. Like, this is the best. They use the people till the people finally get to the point where they're like, oh wait, I'm being screwed royally. And what do? They just get their factories, they take their factories, move it along right to the next country that is in that. So the people get to a point where they're like, oh wait, you know what, I think I am working harder than I should be, and they try, and the American companies take it and just move it along to the next one. They use the country for as much as they can, they milk it for as much as they can, they milk the people for as much as they can, and then move on. And that's why, you know, we don't have the jobs that we could have here in America because they outsource it because they don't want to pay taxes. They don't want to do that.
But that's the key. That's why they outsource it.
Exactly.
When-
yeah,
but-
it's cheaper. It's cheap labor.
It is, but well, wait. It's cheaper labor, okay? But the point is that when you have an intrusive federal government dictating these things to corporations, there's no reason for us to go and start to, well, this whole progressive system we talked about. Why, if you make $1 million and let's say Joe makes $1 million, I make $100,000, I could live in that world. I'd be okay with that. But if we're both paying 10%, his he's paying $100,000 in taxes, which is what I'm making in salary. I'm paying $10,000 in taxes if we're at 10%, right? That's still what's fair. I mean, that was one of the topics you proposed. How much of your money is a fair amount that you ought to be able to or that the federal government should demand from you, right?
Forcibly, by
let me give you
punishment of jail.
Just to give you one idea about how badly we've bought into this whole progressive system. Okay, hear me out on this. George W. Bush, one of the things he did, but see, my issue with George W. Bush, he had the right thinking, but it's like, we're going to go this direction, but I'm going to go this far, right? One example is Social Security. Now, I used to be in investments, and I can tell you something, as an investment advisor, if you had invested your retirement money with me over the course of 30 or 40 years, and I showed you a 2.5% rate of return, I could be brought up on charges as an investment advisor, right? But that is what Social Security is showing the people, that they force to pay into that system, what is the purpose of Social Security? Retirement, right? So here's a government-imposed system, which they have now admitted is a tax. Bear with me. They've now admitted it is a tax. You don't have the option to not pay into it, right? George W. Bush wanted to give people under a certain age the right to dictate or to direct 1%, I think that was right, 1% of what they invest in Social Security. That would not have amounted to a hill of beans. And what did the Democrats do and the liberals do? Oh no, you'll bankrupt the system because you're letting citizens determine how their retirement money is invested.
Absolutely. What will bankrupt the system is whenever you've been out of government office for 20 years and you're still getting paid the same amount that you
These
were
huge
getting.
pensions.
That's ridiculous.
Yes.
It is ridiculous, y'all.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
It is.
Like, it's ridiculous.
Listen, I 100% agree with that statement.
That was
However, that's peanuts. It's peanuts. I'm
to
telling
them,
you.
yes. And
No,
we're all peanuts.
In the global view of the government's budget, it's peanuts. And I wanted to make this point. Terry said 20 trillion buys a lot of business, right? And then he said, because he was still talking about his quadrillion reference, right? I want to point out why that is so realistic, right? Central banks are all around the world. They are in place in every major government in the world, and they're privately owned, right? And they're owned by specific families and have been forever.
But they benefit from government policy.
And they benefit from government policy. Just in the last year, and this is for Terry's benefit, just in the last, I'll say 2 years just to be safe, we had hearings. You can find it on the internet. You can see the actual video where they are being questioned. The representative from the Fed is being questioned, where they are saying we have between $6.5 and $9 trillion with a T missing, unaccounted for, and it's just off the radar. Nobody's questioning it. Nobody wants to know where it went.
That's cool. Let's just say trillion.
Don't look at that big lump under the rug over there.
Right.
What lump?
Right. So when
the one that goes all the way up to the ceiling.
Yes.
A rug.
So when we have Tim referencing our guest saying that these families, the Rothschilds, the Carnegies, are worth quadrillions of dollars, one bank is just missing in the last so many years, unaccounted for, 6.5 to 9, because they don't know, 6.5, $9 trillion, which is like,
trillion go?
Exactly, unaccounted for, and nobody's asking questions. Nobody's asking questions. Now, if that can happen in one government in a short span of time, do you not think it's possible to come up with 1,000 trillion? That'd be a quadrillion. Yeah. It's entirely realistic and feasible when you have a score of central banks located all around the world that handle all the money for these governments, and
they're missing it.
They can miss $9 trillion and not think about it.
And why are we not looking for
That's
it?
bad accounting banks, by the way. That's horrible accounting.
We're not looking for it because we're so busy arguing about how much of a conservative this politician is versus that one, or who is the starlet or the star of the day that's gotten caught up in the latest scandal. It's all about look over here. Don't look over. Just don't pay attention to that curtain over there. Look here.
Big scandal. There's a lot of big scandals that happen whenever they just slip it through on you know, the bills or whatnot, when they just slip it through. If you notice, there's a trend of major things that just happen where it takes the public's attention away from that, and you just slip it through. You're like, oh, there was a, you know, school whatever, or a bomb or whatnot, and then if you look back at it, you see like what were they actually doing then? Like, I don't mean to sound like all conspiracy and crazy, but
It's not really
I-
conspiracy.
You
a
see
little
it in
bit.
actual
I am
legislation.
a little
Yeah.
bit. Like,
No,
and
you
it's
see in
true.
actual legislation.
It's true.
The Harvey relief bill had all kinds of
Exactly.
other stuff tacked onto it. It had nothing to do with Harvey
I
relief.
mean, and just like,
but if you
okay.
didn't pass it, if you didn't vote for it, you weren't for
And
Harvey
the
relief.
Patriot Act. I mean,
Same
like,
deal.
you don't want to. You don't.
You're not a
You're
patriot
not
if
a
you don't back
patriot?
for this
But,
act.
Well,
but
That was a different story.
It's
then.
also
Yeah.
That's
other
a different
stuff, but
subject.
there's other stuff tacked on. Is what you're saying.
Yeah,
it's,
yeah,
that's
agreed,
basically
agreed.
it. Yeah, that's the point of it. You know, they tack it on
Hey,
and
government,
they
stop
distract
trying
you.
to slip it in.
We're-
Stop it.
Hey, wrong
Let me
hole.
know.
Wrong
That's what
hole,
she
babe.
said.
No
Hey.
sleazy slipping in.
I have
That's what
wine.
she said.
I have wine. Let me know.
All right, guys. We're at the end of the show. It's flown by. We had all kind of crazy difficulties, so I thank you guys for sticking with us through the beginning of the show. Dawn Abram, I see joined again. I saw her joined earlier. I don't know when you came in, when you came back in, that sort of
That's
thing.
our
Dawn,
winner, right?
but
You're the
Dawn
winner.
won.
Dawn.
Dawn, you won.
You're the winner, Dawn. You're
Yes.
the winner.
So we forgot to ask Terry his rating.
I got it for him.
I
I
mean,
got it.
not Terry.
Tim.
Tim.
Yeah, I got it for him. Yeah.
Yeah, you got it for him.
Yeah, I got it for him. I know what he was thinking.
Yes.
Like, we know Tim.
So
He said he did not want to leave, so I'm thinking that he loved it.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Yes.
all right.
Hey, I
so,
appreciate all the comments too. Torian, I always appreciate you, man.
Torian always has-
has good. I don't agree with him a lot of times, but they're always well thought.
very salient, well thought out comments. And Torian lives out of town. He's flying into Houston for an event, and we adjusted the Wine No Wine Show calendar so he could be on.
You gotta let me know because I want to meet him.
Awesome.
Okay,
Awesome,
yeah.
Torian.
So he's gonna be on the show.
Travel safe.
Military man, served the country, great
Thank you for
guy.
your service.
Yep. So
Thank you, Torian.
look forward to having him on the show.
Awesome.
All
While
right.
they be in town, I can get him a free massage. 'Cause that's
Oh!
what I'm doing for my first responders. We'll talk about that later. Stay tuned.
All right, so we've come to the point of the show where we rate the wine. Today's wine is called The Falls. The Falls.
It fell.
And yeah, it disappeared. I mean, like fell straight off the
I
bat.
like it. Woo.
California Landscape is the vintner, and it's a Pinot Grigio 2016. So, hints of pear in the drink. It's a very light wine, good for spicy foods. I will share the rating and the picture of the wine on the page and on the Instagram page so you know where to find it. So, how do you rate the wine from today?
I say like a 3.5. I don't know how to
You can do
it.
half.
Half. Yes, you can do half.
Like,
Yes.
Totally
that's
okay.
perfect.
3.5?
There you go.
3.5. Okay.
I like it, but I'm not a huge fan of white wine, but it was good, and I like the pear flavors.
Female doppelganger. I know.
I like the pear, you know,
That's what I
flavor. You
meant.
can kind of taste a little fruit, a little
hate to be right from the
sweetness,
start.
Yes.
and it's pretty good.
Yes.
I would drink
here.
another bottle
Yeah.
if I had one.
There we
so.
go. There we
I
go.
did it last night. The whole thing.
I will say, for me, I opened a bottle previously, but like a moron, I froze it.
You were
I-
trying to chill it.
I was trying to chill it, and then
I
I forgot. I
You
forgot.
chilled it while having one. and
I
forgot.
chilled it all right.
Yeah.
I really chilled it. So it kind of,
Winecicles.
yes, it kind of distorted the taste.
Yeah.
So I had a worse opinion starting off. So this kind of may have impacted my view of it because I didn't like it as much the first go around. But this for me was a lot better, and it was very drinkable. I'm just like, you know, this didn't knock it out of the park for me or anything, but I'm like, it's a very drinkable wine. I could pour it, sit out on the back porch and enjoy it. It's definitely good. I could definitely see eating it with some spicy food to cleanse the palate, that sort of thing. I give it a solid 4.
I'm gonna go 3. I am a red girl. Hello. It was great. It just went down my palate way too easily. It's a very light, soft, sweet. Not very sweet.
I
but-
refilled her glass
Yes,
multiple
yes.
times.
I actually drank most of the bottle. That everything else you saw people drink was water.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll give it 3. I love wine. It's just a little light for me. The darker the berry, the sweeter the juice. You know what I mean? But I'll give it a solid 3. It was a great one. And
We
if you
just went
love
to
me,
PG
you know-
right there.
If you love
Wink,
me-
wink, nod, nod. You know what I'm saying, right?
You know what I'm saying with these 3 grapes right here? So that's me. There you go, David.
Oh my gosh, Lord help me. All right, so I am doing the 3.5 as well. I had this before. I had it last night. No kidding, I really did. Had it last night with a pork chop salad. Okay, and my initial impression of it was that it's a little bit overbearing in the citrusy edge at the beginning, but in a little bit more sweet than I like. And I got to confess my white wine bias. Yes, I'm a wine racist. Yes, I know. You heard it right here on the Wine No
You heard it
Wine
right
Show.
here.
That's right.
Finally, he
Are
admits it.
we allowed to walk off?
You are. You're not. In fact, if you walked off,
Storming out. That's right.
if you walked off in protest, I'm even happier.
He's like, this just went to 5.
Yes, this just went to a 5.
I'm leaving. I'm leaving this whole place.
So anyway, I give it a 3.5. It's funny that drinking it with food, I did not enjoy it as well as drinking it with company.
Okay,
So this bumped it up from a 3.25 to a 3.5 for me. A lot of that probably had to do with Monica. I have to admit, I
Most of it does.
it's
3.5.
Right. 3.5. and that's the same thing Tim would have said. Just so you know, it's the
Yeah.
same thing.
Yeah.
3.5.
3.5.
3.5.
Like seriously, someone ask him.
Hey, if you leave early, we vote for you.
So, thank you guys for tuning into the show. We really appreciate y'all being a part of it. We had some crazy madness at the beginning of the show.
Just kidding, I didn't leave.
But I am over here by myself.
Yeah, but you
I
are.
do notice that.
Yes.
But look at his grape head.
But I got
Yes.
your phone.
So listen,
Come.
if you like the I'm a Grape Head t-shirt, and you like premium wine, and you like maybe the idea of doing some hot yoga, I don't know, then you'll definitely want to click on the send message button and drop in the words contest details to find out how you enter the prize. Every week we're going to give away a prize on the show. Those 3 things, we may be adding to it. I think I have some stuff coming up we're going to be adding. So you will definitely want to get in on the win. This week's winner, Dawn Abram. Dawn, say hello. I saw you log into the show twice, but I didn't see you comment.
And there's V.
You're
What's
the
up,
big
V?
winner. Yes. Vianney?
VNA. Yes.
Vianney Hinojosa?
Yes.
Barrera.
Barrera.
There we go.
Hi,
And lots of wines and smiles.
Yes.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. We need to put on some music and crank up the end of the show here. We're going to dance our way out.
Don't forget to come see me at Casa Nueva tonight,
David's
7
gonna
o'clock.
be at Casa Nueva tomorrow.
That's the new
Are we
house
tonight?
if you don't know Spanish.
That's right. New
Yes.
house.
Yes. So
Other
where's the
kids.
music?
You
Thanks
can do
everybody
it.
for dealing with their difficulties. We'll see you next week at 5.
Yes.
Are you saying we have issues?
Yes.
We.
A magazine rack full. That's why we keep meeting up.
There it is. There it is.
Baby, we got volumes.
We got volumes of issues. Volumes of issues. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Where's the list?
Yes.
Stop! Oh my God! I don't even know.
Hey, don't leave me hanging. Please.
One more.
One more. Because they're high five.
You sexist pig.
Tune in next week
Sexist
to the
swine.
Wine No Wine Show. I don't know who's gonna be
Not
on.
Magic Day.
I don't know what we're gonna be talking about,
I'm so happy.
but it's gonna be awesome. I promise. See you guys.